I guess it would be a special meeting of the City Council of South Fulton. At this time, I would like the clerk to call the roll.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is the special call meeting for Wednesday, June 19th. Roll call. Mayor William Bill Edwards. Councilmember and Mayor Pro Tem Mark Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Catherine Rao. Councilmember Carmelita Dunn.
Because I do. And before we get started, to perfect the record, Madam Attorney, sent out to the public, is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, I'd like to clarify, it's my
I would like to add to the agenda, I've sent all of you a copy of my appointing to the Ethics Board, and I would like to add that nomination to the Ethics Board to the agenda for the, if it's your pleasure.
So, Mayor, just to clarify,
My comments was that if there is no objection to it, it was done. I have been swearing in people every day, you know, to get things done. My original appointee was not sworn, not taken. So, because I feel that this is an emergency, because of the fact that we're rushing to swear everybody in, I'd like to have mine done. So it's the pleasure of the board whether or not we should add it to the agenda. So I would.
well, but you don't have to collectively.
Nominee to the Ethics Board, which I sent out yesterday. And I consider this the fact that we're trying to pull the Ethics Board together. This is an emergency. And it's the pleasure of the board whether they want to consider adding to the agenda for approval. We have, since the fact that we've had a claim, everybody's rushing me to get everybody in panel, okay? And I have been paneling everybody for the last 2 days. Even I paneled a person up here this morning. So I'm saying, because my person was not being put on, I want to impanel them as soon as possible, because we have some stuff coming.
Well, we never voted on accepting the agenda.
Madam Chair.
For Wednesday, June 19, 2019. She said we don't have to amend everything.
Right. Is there a second?
Well, 59, 55, which is Joshua. Second.
Properly moved and second. Hearing any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Ms. Jackson, are you voting in favor? Okay, that's unanimous.
Item was approved. Next item on the agenda,
I move to pull the, do we have everybody here? Because we're supposed to have a presentation from Mr. Selby. Mr. Mayor, I'm asking that we pull this, until we get everybody here. And the reason I'm asking that is because we keep going over and over and over and over about this urban redevelopment. And I would like to have full participation from the council, before we discuss this and move on.
Pleasure of the board.
So for clarification, is it to pull it from today's agenda or to table it for a later time in the meeting?
Later time in the meeting, because we're supposed to have speakers to talk, and there are some people who want to have a lengthy discussion. And I really would like for us to hash this out with the full body and with everybody, with the speakers.
And I've asked Doug Selby to come this morning, and he does plan to.
Yeah, so I would like to wait until later on until we get them here. Is that okay? Okay.
Is that the pleasure of the body? That's the pleasure of the body? Okay, that's fine.
so we're holding items B and C until
later.
others come.
Yeah.
Next item is item D. Council approval to authorize additional funding for complete renovations at Fire Station Number 1.
I move to authorize additional funding for complete renovation of Fire Station Number 1.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Discussion.
I just want to make sure we have a discussion about Fire Station 17, and the reason being, I thought that funds were available, and I was told that they aren't. They would be available through the URA, and I don't know how much money is available or not. So I guess one of my concerns is that I just don't understand why it's on the agenda and we're voting for it now, even though we haven't even voted for the URA. And that's where the funding is coming from.
Ms. Roberts?
I want a clarification as well. I, of course, support the fire station, but we've been kind of told also paid for capital improvement from general funds, and so I'm very much looking forward to the discussion that we're tabling. Look at all the sources of funding, a number of things we need to discuss. So that, just want a clarification, is it, or was it
Go
so
ahead.
I know we approved some original money for this renovation, this is additional money?
Yeah.
Is that coming from the general fund?
No, it's coming from URA.
Well, I need.
Why don't we have CFO answer that question?
Yeah,
So as you know, all the projects, we moved them, the capital projects, we moved them to capital funding. So you have a list of all the projects that were presented during the budget amendment. So this is one of them. And this one is because it's more than 25,000. That's the reason why the city manager is bringing it. However, still the 100,000 for Station 17, if that's the case, also to be included in the prior approving. But they will not be implemented until the funding is approved. But the main reason the manager brought it because it's beyond his authorization to sign it for $25,000, which is his limit. So once it's approved, the URA has been approved, they don't want to delay it, they want to have it implemented immediately. That's the main reason, it's beyond $25,000. But the money is already allocated in URA funding.
Ms. Jackson?
I guess I'm asking the question, if we're putting this type of money into this building, and it's saying that these other items need to be applied in order for it to meet code, so we're gonna throw good money after bad, we're not gonna try to finish or find, because we cannot find any money?
So the entire
They've been
project,
finding it all year, no, we need to find some at this fire station.
the entire project was about 239,000. However, as the project went on, that amount, the needs of that to be completed has gone beyond the 239. Now
I
it is
understand.
300.
But I'm just saying, can we not find some money to complete this project? I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
She yielded. I want to say this. I agree with her. A lot of times when we do projects, we have contingency fund because no one knows what's going to happen. And this is the same thing that happened here. Once you knock that sheetrock off that wall, there's no telling what you're going to find. So yes, Ms. Jackson, I think that there should have been a contingency. And not just the fire station, but on anything.
On anything.
We need to have a contingency fund just in case. Thank you for yielding.
This is public safety. This is not a recreation center. This is not, you understand what I'm saying? This is public safety. And I have a lot of seniors in my area, and that's my fire station. And I'm not trying to be funny, but yeah, we need to do something.
Mayor, can I comment?
Comment on it, please.
Okay.
No, I was next.
No, he's answering.
Okay, I'm fine.
So
Oh,
just,
he's answering me? Okay.
just know that the contingency we budgeted for $100,000. We took $20,000 that we allocated. Then last budget we had $15,000 that we allocated to Councilman Gilliard request. You approved that one. So we have about $35,000 less. So we have 65, and what is needed is about 74. So we can easily find the difference if that's your direction
We
you
need
want.
to find the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to make a comment?
Just really quickly, it's not so much about finding the funds, is that anything over 25,000 has to come back to council. So it's not so much the funding, it's the authorization for us
Okay.
to
That's
spend.
correct. That's correct. Okay, now I have Ms. Willis.
This fire station sits in District 3. It sits in District 3, but it serves District 3 and 5. And right now, we have people coming from Buffington Road trying to service the whole Welcome Mall community and Fairwood community. It is a public safety issue, but it's also a quality of life issue. And I have residents emailing me, calling me every day, wanting to know when their fire station is going to be reopened. We need to get this done ASAP.
Right, Mr. Lee.
I wonder, since this is connected to URA funding,
Right.
I think that maybe we should table this until we talk about the URA, because I think that there is a list of projects that are missing from the project list that we need to add. We probably should just add them all at one time.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard?
I think that Councilman Fareed really made an excellent point. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying don't fund it. What I'm saying is that if we were given the information that to fund it is based on the URA. If we're going to table,
Don't interrupt her.
Mr. Donald sent us an email that said that before it even came to the agenda. So that's where the funding, the extra funding is coming from. So to me, it's logical that we pass the URA. We're going to do that at some point today. And after we do that, that's why it's third in line. It was the URA, we pass it. The other items, we pass it. And that, we pass it. So now we're putting it before the URA because we're delaying the URA. So I'm just saying it makes sense to pass the URA first before we pass that. That's it. Not don't do it. That's not even, you know, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Councilman Jackson.
Okay, I think when you said that, the city manager said, I think he recommended to the council, this what we do. Because he cannot tell us what we're gonna do. No, he recommended. So what I'm saying is, I would rather vote now, because when the URA comes on later on today, we still might not agree. So I'm just saying, can we come to something now before we leave this? And, you know, have something in place. And if the URA comes, then we can move that funding back and do it that way. But what I'm saying right now, we need to make a decision about this fire station, because everybody's over here on Buckington Road, and it makes no sense.
Chair recognizes Mr. Baker, and then Dr. Rao has been the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. I understand the passion, but they're not going to fix the fire station while we're in this meeting. And we're going to actually make the determination on the URA while we're in this meeting, or not. And then at the same time, there were questions in our last meeting on whether or not we want to use the URA for funding all of the capital projects. Because from my understanding, the URA may not fund all of our projects. So I guess I'd like to make a motion to table this until we have a discussion about the URA.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, there's already a motion on the floor.
Was your motion second?
My motion.
Was your motion second?
There is a motion and a second, and I believe you're making a substitute motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion. Actually, if you could restate your motion.
I think
My
it's the same
motion
thing.
was to approve.
It was to approve it.
Okay, got it.
Mine is to table it until after,
And I second.
and that's what I have a substitute.
Madam Attorney?
Well, you would need to vote on her motion
Right.
initially unless she agrees that you can substitute, and if not, then you
We
have
have
to
to vote
vote.
on motion.
That's not, we still get to vote on the substitute motion.
Yeah, if her
Yes.
motion fails, then
Motion
could,
fails.
your motion would then be next.
That's not the case.
Not according to Robert's rules.
Right.
Yeah.
What now?
So a person should be able to make a substitute motion, and if that motion doesn't fail, then you go back to the main motion. But that's Robert's rules.
So what is it now,
I
Corey?
think he's,
What you said, Corey, what we supposed to do?
Mr. Baker
Vote on the
is making a substitute motion. According to Robert's rules, if there's a main motion on the floor and a substitute motion is offered, the body can consider that motion. And if that motion, that substitute motion fails, then the main motion is put forward.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a second on your substitute motion? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Baker's motion? Opposed?
The substitute motion?
This is substitute motion. All opposed, okay. That's, what was it? 4-2.
4-2 to table.
Uh-huh. a long ways to table now. Long ways out of
Mayor, you ready for the next item?
this item.
Next item is a board appointment to the Ethics, Board of Ethics. The mayor nominates Attorney O.V. Bratton.
I'll accept the motion.
I move to accept the name
O.V. Bratton, Attorney
O.V.
Bratton.
Brantley, Attorney O.V. Brantley as the board appointment for Mayor Edwards.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
I have discussion.
Go right ahead.
I just want to make note for the record that I was not aware that we were swearing in, people. I called into the office, actually someone told me it was happening, and I called in and I just found out that it was happening. I also just found out that my nominee, had withdrawn their, appointment, and so I didn't know until yesterday, after 12, that any of this was happening. And I just wanted to make that known for the record.
Ms. Khalid, also for the record, in reference to that, I was simply told that you need to swear in, and they started to make the appointments for me to swear in. So,
Right, no, I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, like, I didn't get notice from the clerk's office, I didn't get notice from my nominee, I didn't get notice from anybody that any of this was happening. So I also don't have an appointment, but I will forward you guys something next week.
okay.
So did you say you don't object though, right?
I don't object, I just wanted to state for the record that I wasn't aware any of this was happening.
I have a discussion.
Go right ahead.
Is there information available about what transpired? Because I'm thinking that you had an appointment already, and it was already confirmed. It was the only
It was in the email.
appointment confirmed. I understand that, but I didn't get that either. Clearly, that's why I just received it. Don't do that. I mean, I'm just saying.
He has the floor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was just, is it possible to share that?
I can't, I mean, it's very simple.
Because she was the first person.
She was, and I felt that she was legally done. Then an opposing amendment to the ordinance came out that simply invited, where the attorney said that she was not qualified. So instead of having a big conversation, a big argument about back and forth whether a person is legal or not legal, I sat her down and talked to her, and we agreed that she should move on and I'll appoint somebody.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
You can.
I disagree with the way that the attorney applying is interpreting our ethics ordinance. I think Mrs. Kenya Johnson, I'm going to go on record, was unfairly targeted. She's a citizen, and I feel like I agree with you, Pro Tem Baker, that she was appointed first. We approved it to go back and have a citizen, an outstanding citizen of this city, to have to be removed off the board before the ordinance was rewritten to try to exclude her is I think is highly disrespectful, and it does not send a good message that we want to run a ethical ethics board.
Ms. Ron?
I'm gonna say this for the record too. When we adopted these policies, I don't see how we're retroactively applying them. It's going forward, in my opinion. And so, but I appreciate the fact, so we don't have to keep going back and forth, Mayor, that you brought forth another recommendation so we can move forward. So thank you for that.
I just want to state for the record that whenever we amend an ordinance, there's a clause in the ordinance that says all conflicting ordinances shall be repealed. So that's a precedent that we've had since the beginning of writing ordinances and amending ordinances. When I found out yesterday afternoon on my own that my nominee had withdrawn from the board, I rushed to replace them. And I was told the same thing that the mayor was told. I nominated someone who worked for the county, and they're not eligible as well. So it wasn't just like a targeting of one person. My second nominee was not eligible for the same reason.
Any further discussion?
One more, and one last thing. I think we all have laptops now, and everybody is signed in if you want to use that.
Yes, may I do have one more discussion.
Go right ahead. This is the last discussion.
So why was the ordinance changed to prevent people who work for any municipality to serve on our ethics board? What was the reasoning behind that? Because when this was done and voted on, I was out in FMLA, I was sick. So I'm just not understanding why are we targeting residents and prohibiting them from serving on the ethics board if they work on any other municipality. I mean, you could be a janitor, and if you work for East Point and you live in our city, that means you can't qualify to work on the ethics board. So how is that fair to residents?
I don't turn you answer that.
And why are we as a board?
There is a very clear and articulable reason why you guys are in this discussion that you have not discussed amongst each other. My recommendation would be that if you want to genuinely address the issue, that you do so privately in executive session.
Okay. Okay, that's good. All right, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
What's the
The
motion?
appointment bill.
Oh, your appointment.
All those in favor? That passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, you have completed all items on the agenda, printed agenda, except for those items B, C, and D, which were held.
Okay, at such time, we have a full board, we will bring back, that B and C.
B, C, and D.
Well, it's the full board and speakers, because we,
And, yes, such time we'll bring it back. This is, Gums informed me that she would be late this morning, so, but she will be.
she said she would be here around 9.
Okay. Go right ahead.
I was told by one of the tables behind us that they can't hear us. So I'm wondering if the people on camera, can you hear us, Mr. Hammond? Okay.
That completes these agenda items.
So, Mr. Mayor, I
Can
would
we-
suggest with concurrence with the city attorney that the special call meeting be recessed until such time.
Now, there is an alternative. You need to confirm the map, which doesn't require.
We would
the
like to
input.
hold all of it until the speakers get here.
Well, that's your discretion too. I'm just letting you know that if I do know you have a lot of budget items, so if you want to consider discussion on the areas which do not require financial input, just the council giving their opinion on items that may be
Well,
priority for the map.
I'm for anything that moves this meeting forward.
Well, what the map is going to impact what we decide what we're going to put in URA. So we have asked to hold all of URA discussion until the speakers get here, because there's lengthy discussion that we need to have with the speakers.
Is there, what
And
else?
what we
I do have one item that we could discuss. I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
Well, one, I have a question. Let me ask this first. Are we able to go into executive session in this meeting today?
You may go into executive session as long as it is a topic that is in the meeting call.
Okay.
In our topic of the morning.
I would like to make a motion that we go into executive session around personnel about the URA.
But the URA, let me make it clear, personnel in the URA. That's got to be real estate.
No, this is a person. I'm clear that what I want to talk about is a personnel issue with the URA.
Oh.
If people want to add real estate and all that stuff, they can, but I'm clear that that's.
Properly moved to second, any discussion?
Now because some of you think it may be real estate, my recommendation would be that you touch both subjects, so that way that if it does lean towards real estate, at least your discussion's covered.
I think he did that.
So you said personnel and
I
real
said
estate?
personnel.
Well, someone said real estate. Wait a minute.
Personnel and real estate, it's fine. Personnel and real estate.
Any further? Where are we?
Mr. Mayor, if you give me a few moments, I did talk with the staff here. There's a room to the side over here. I just need to have them turn the lights on and get that ready.
That's a good turn. So you know your people though.
You do have a motion on the floor.
There's a motion. Any further comment? If not, let's vote for a executive session on personnel and real estate. That passes 5-1. All right, we'll move to executive session. Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
So if you want to pull a chair,
Were any decisions made in executive session?
There was no action taken in executive session.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to close the executive session.
Make a motion to close.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? Executive session is closed. Do we have everybody here? Everyone's here to reopen the regular meeting, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk, do we need a motion to reopen the regular meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to reopen the special call meeting.
Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? The meeting is reopened. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we had 3 items that were held earlier this morning. First item is letter B, council approval, for Urban Redevelopment Agency establishing need and area resolution. In your packages, there are 2 resolutions, one sponsored by Councilmember Willis and another version sponsored by Councilmember Baker.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
We at the last meeting, y'all can go back and look at the tape, and we talked, Council Pro Tem Baker and I have decided to co-sponsor this. So the legislation that's on the agenda is what we're gonna move forward with. The legislation that's listed on the special item agenda is what we're gonna move forward with.
So that would be the first item,
Yes.
sponsored by Councilmember Willis. That's the
No,
first item.
co-sponsored by Willis and.
Oh, I'm sorry, for identification
Okay.
purposes.
Okay.
yeah, and they may amend and change it as they do,
Yes.
as they discuss, but the
Right.
sponsors will be both of the
Yeah, we
council members.
co-sponsored, but for identification purposes, it's the
Okay.
first resolution in there that says sponsored by Councilman Willis, but it's so noted that this will be co-sponsored by Councilman Willis and Baker.
Okay. Discussion?
Yes, any
Vote,
amendment.
vote. Ms. Willis, you had the floor, you finished?
Yes, and also noted that any changes we will discuss and amend as we go along.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Gilliard?
Are we at the point of any amendments that we vote on?
We're gonna discuss, okay, are we amending now? I thought we were gonna have a discussion.
You may make amendments throughout the discussion.
I thought we wanted to hear from Mr. Selby.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the point is, you can
Let's
make an
just
amendment
stay
if you
up
want. You can give it to Mr. Selby.
We want to hear from you.
Any further comments before Mr. Selby? Hearing nothing, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, please, is everybody in the queue now? Or do they need assistance in getting in? Is everybody in the queue?
We didn't know it was still rules on with a lot of us. It's the
Okay,
one.
while we're getting on there, why don't we, it's okay that Mr. Selby comes and start his presentation? Mr. Selby, why don't you comment?
Well, I think Mr. Selby's here to answer any questions you may have.
Oh,
versus
okay,
present.
that was my understanding, he was gonna make a presentation, but that's fine, Mr. Selby. Any questions for Mr. Selby? He has given a presentation twice. Mr. Khalid, go ahead.
This first, I just want to make sure that I'm not talking out of turn. This first resolution includes the map. When we approve this resolution, are we approving the map? What is the map attached to?
Let me pull up the first resolution.
Yeah, can I speak?
Excuse me a minute, hold on, too many things going on.
He asked,
I'm asking our attorney, like,
Yeah.
there's a resolution for the URA and there's a resolution for the membership, and then there's a map. So is the map a separate approval, or is the map, or is approving the resolution for the URA also approving the map?
No, the membership is a separate document.
Is the map a
The map
separate
is not
document?
attached to that. The map is attached to the one that proceeds, that comes before the
So the
membership.
one we're discussing now, when we approve this URA, we are also approving.
Correct, you would need to approve the map.
Okay, so my question about the map is that do we have the map? Can we pull it up? They're pulling it up. So my question about the map is that it's not a contiguous URA. It's not all connected. Is that?
That is correct. The recommendation would be to have as few areas as possible so that we don't have to overexpansively declare the city to be blighted. But there is no express legal requirement that it has to be contiguous. If it's not contiguous, the preference would be to just designate it as a different area.
Right,
Like Area
so-
1, Area 2, Area 3.
And so I guess my first question for Mr. Selby is that I was under the understanding that when it's not contiguous, it is more prudent legally to label it URA Area 1, Area 2, Area 3 versus one entire URA. Is that?
Yeah, no, good morning, Councilman. I do think it's a good practice that if you are going to exercise urban redevelopment powers, that you do it in discrete areas.
Right.
And the best way to do that would be in designated area 1, 2, and 3. And frankly, when exercising the powers, the plan needs to address the needs in those specific areas. They may be substantially similar, but they need to be addressing in those areas. There was a lot of talk about whether areas need to be contiguous or not in terms of districting for voting purposes. You may have heard that in voting rights cases. That issue isn't present in the context of the URA. So short answer is, the preference is you use the URA for areas that are appropriate for the designation. Those ought to be labeled separately. Other cities and counties that I've seen that do URAs have if they have multiple areas, they're it's not a whole entire jurisdiction. It's discrete areas labeled URA Area 1, 2, or 3. Just like another example of it would be a tax allocation district. Many jurisdictions have multiple tax allocation districts. Some of your neighbors, East Point, has multiple tax allocation districts. The City of Atlanta has 10 tax allocation districts. The entire city isn't like that, but they're discrete areas with specific needs that can be separately designated.
Okay, so that leads to my second question. You talked about the redevelopment plan. So we are right now ready to approve the URA without the redevelopment plan. What is your recommendation for how soon after? How do we make that plan? I'm not clear.
I believe this resolution that the city attorney is referencing is what we sort of call the prerequisite resolution. It would declare a need for an urban redevelopment area, and it would authorize the appropriate official to develop a plan. After the plan is developed, there would need to be a public hearing, and then the council would be in a posture to adopt the plan.
Who is the designated official to develop our URA plan?
And it's actually on the resolution. It's not this one, but it's the membership resolution, and it directs the city manager to work in conjunction with me, finance, and appropriate city staff. So it's more of a collaborative effort with administration.
Okay, so that's handling the second part. My last question in this round is, I also understand, well, it's a question and a comment. I also understand that the project list should be connected to the redevelopment plan. And I have some issues with the project list, and I'm wondering how, is it better to bring those up now? I will say specifically what the issue is. In a meeting with Mr. Valenzuela, we learned that there's about $5 million to finish the old national sidewalks that we're probably not going to get from Fulton County. 89,000 or so is due now. I think another $2 million is due our next budget year, and then another 2 million is due after that. So like we need at least 2 or 3 million to keep this going so that we don't lose a $5 million federal match. So I want to make sure that that gets added into the project list. I understand from Mr. Malazzi that we can add up to $20 million worth of things to this project list before we have to raise the millage rate. So I just want to know like how many things, because if I say I want to add something in, somebody else may want to add something in. Mm-hmm. So my question for, I guess, all three of you, since I spoke to all three of you, like all three of you could like talk to it. What is sort of our limit to add things in, and then how do we get those things added in?
You can borrow money. The city can borrow money up to $20 million. You don't have to borrow money, all $20 million, if you don't have projects. And out of the projects, this borrowing will also help us remember about the fund balance negative that we have. So it's not that we have to consume everything. We have to decide how much are we borrowing. The staff, department heads have come up with the projects. I do not have a listing of projects from respective council members to see how much total projects we have. But we have from department heads. Then council members have to come up with, if you want to add into that list, then we can determine how much we are borrowing.
So these sidewalks in District 6 and 7, I think that they weren't put on the list. I don't want to speak for staff. I want staff to speak for themselves, but I think they weren't put on the list because the assumption was we were going to get this money from the county. I don't know why they weren't put on the list, but they're not on the list and they need to be on the list. I think that a corridor like Old National where people are walking in dirt qualifies as blight. I also know that MARTA will not put in bus stations where there are no sidewalks. So
if you remember the email I sent yesterday, right. So we don't have to combine the two. The email I sent yesterday is to talk about what we are talking today is the budget amendment of 2019. That list is for budget amendment of 2019. We have 2020 budget that will have capital projects, but that list you have is specifically for 2019 budget. But that's why maybe he didn't add into that list. When you add those into the list, eventually they will get into the 2020 budget or you upgrade them into 2019.
But it's my understanding that we're moving capital projects off of our budget. So if we move $3 million off of our budget so that we can have a positive fund balance, so that we can get better bond rates, it doesn't make sense to then pass a 2020 budget and put $3 million of capital projects back on. If this is URA, so I'm going to yield to the mayor. But I guess my final question, my ultimate question is, without raising the millage rate, how many millions of dollars of projects can we issue in this URA before we have to either raise the millage rate, or how much is too much?
So here is we can borrow up to $20 million. As of now, in 2019, we allocated capital projects $2.1 million from our general fund. We have moved that to help general fund for operations. When we get into borrowing through URA, which will be cheaper, rate will be cheaper, we do not need to raise taxes because we are going to pay over a long time and we can borrow more money. The $2 million that you allocated for capital projects in 2019, you need only $700,000 to $900,000 to pay our debt if you borrow through a URA. So you don't need, so we may, out of the 11.579 mills that we have, we may just allocate $0.5 million for capital projects. You do not need to, but if you want to have more, then you need to, but you cannot go beyond 13.4 mills because that's the limit. So anything that you are going to borrow money, if we borrow money through the bank, we borrow money anywhere else other than this, our limit is 11.5
4 mills. The rest of it, you have to go to, you have to do referendum.
Okay, and, because I want to move the conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
The other thing, I hear what you're saying on the sidewalk. We gotta make up our mind as to whether we're gonna go and pay for the sidewalk and pursue Fulton County, for the money, okay? Or we're gonna have to pursue Fulton County totally to get the money for the sidewalk. I think that's a discussion that we have.
Well, let me just say in response to that, it's my understanding from Mr. Valenzuela that the time is not on our side for that issue. So we're going to have to pay for them now and then try to get them later.
I hear you. That's all I'm saying. That's the decision we gotta make, okay? And, Mr. Clerk, Mrs. Gilliard. I know, but I just want to say Ms. Gilliard's system is not working. She gets some assistance and get home.
Yeah,
Okay, and Mrs. Rod, go ahead.
I had the same issue as Councilman Lee, my conversation with Public Works. I also have some projects along Fairburn Road that were also on that list. So I guess I want to see the Public Works list that we know that's out there that we may need to consider in this conversation so we don't leave that money on the table. And so it's in the same bucket as the Old National Sidewalk. And so if Public Works has that list that they can provide, it would be most helpful.
You have to make that decision what we're gonna do on those also. Ms. Gilliard was not able to get on, but she was after Ms. Rao. So Ms. Gilliard, go ahead.
My question is for you, and it really relates to an amendment that I was going to make to the URA as it is currently stated. It says in there, when it talks about the plan, it says that the city manager will develop a plan. What I wanted to add to it, and I want to know if this would be an appropriate amendment, is that the city manager would do that with the input of council, and it might be, it's going to happen anyway, but I just would like for that to be in there, particularly when this is the first loan, if you will, that we're going to get, the first money that we're really going to get, you know, coming out after 2 years and having this long list of needs and the plan.
So can I stop you procedurally? Can you make the motion and then have the discussion, and then people around the table could chime in on the discussion, and then you vote?
Okay, good.
So I should make the amendment.
Yeah, you
now?
should make the motion and then discuss it, and then allow the other council members to weigh in and then vote.
But wait. So tell me if this is procedurally correct. Wasn't a motion made for the URA?
Mr. Mayor, I rise to the point of order. My point of order is, there is no amendment when we haven't agreed to vote on the URA, period. We were in discussion. We have not agreed to vote on anything, but we talked about making amendments to this resolution, but there was never we never moved to vote on the URA. So we can amend it, but how do we best?
Well, she is proposing to change some of the language on this document.
So my question is somebody writing down everything that we're saying we want to amend, so when we get to the point where we approve the URA, we can say we approve the URA with amendments, with the amendments?
Yes.
So are you keeping a record of what we're saying we want to amend?
Well, it may be easier to vote amendment by amendment versus having voting on 8 amendments that someone may not vote on because they just don't agree with one.
So Mayor, I'm asking, as so my question is, it was sent to you, wasn't it sent to you? You were.
Yeah, I had it, and I will forward
throughout this whole city. I don't want to just say district, but throughout this whole city. Are these the projects that we're supposed to be paid by T-SPLOST funds that we're saying that we need to go?
State or federal programs for which the county committed to during the time of application to provide the match. At this point, now that the city is established and coordinating transportation, it is the county's position that we are responsible for fully funding those projects, and the match that if this issue is not resolved, then the federal funding, which neither of us has control over, will last. And that is our issue.
So my question is, what is that time frame? When is it going? When are we in jeopardy of losing this funding? Does anybody know?
Yes, the first portion is that for the state projects and those in partnership with ARC, we have received a little bit of relief from their direct